Digital ladies breaking the chain, rising in crypto, we're changing the game. Crypto frontier, we're claiming our space. Not your keys, not your crypto, know your place. Unscripted, we're bold, we're free. Melissa, Keita, Lady K, and Opti. Dip a toe, come ride this wave. Digital wealth, we're here to pay.
Crypto nights, we're lighting a spark. As we ignite now, we're setting the mark.
Safety first, we're keeping it tight. Blockchain power, we're shining the light. Unscripted, we're bold, we're free. Melissa, Keita, Lady K, and Opti. Dip a toe, come ride this wave.
Welcome to Digital Ladies Unscripted. I'm Melissa, and I am joined by my legendary co-hosts, Keita, Lady K, and Abdi. How are you doing this evening, ladies?
Excellent. How are you?
I got a little choked up.
It's the pollen.
I'm telling you, I didn't think it was going to come out. But you know, tonight, ladies, we're going to try something a little different. Keita sent me a wild TikTok that was blowing up the other day that attempts to break down the Strait of Hormuz, the situation going on there, using simple game theory, incentives, signals, and constraints. And it got me thinking, what if a tiny strip of water and a new CryptoToll could actually rewrite how countries trade with each other forever? And I want to say, like, we're not experts on this, guys, at all. That's the whole point. We're just four women in Web3 who love connecting dots and speculating out loud. And this TikTok doesn't mention this part, but right now in April of 2026, Iran is charging ships a tiny crypto fee, which is about $1 per barrel in Bitcoin or stable coins, to sail through the world's most important oil route during this, I think it's a 2-week ceasefire. So the question is, why crypto? What does this mean for Bitcoin and stable coins? Could this be the very first test of worlds where countries are trading peer-to-peer without one big power threatening sanctions? So for those of you watching, stick with us for the next hour. We're going to try to keep this super simple. Hopefully we're going to be laughing, wonder out loud, even ask you guys what you think in the chat. And by the end of the show, you might see your gas bill, your crypto portfolio, or this whole global money game in a brand new light. So what I thought we could do to start off is to actually play this video that I'm referring to. Are you guys down with that? We just start off right away with
so we at least know where we're starting off, you know, and why.
Yeah, so Keita actually sent me this video, and I was like, what in the heck, you know? Let me see if I can get the right. Okay, there we go. It's always fun trying to share something. And let me get this up here. Okay, guys, it's about a 3-minute video, but this kind of will give you an idea of what sparked this whole theme of the show today. So let's go here.
Not an idiot.
Oh,
what if losing?
Wait.
Okay, so
All right, here we go.
heavily dependent.
Oh, Jesus.
But here's the thing.
Hold on a minute.
Iran is exactly the plan. Let me show you something. Not an idiot. Okay, so what if?
Jeez,
Okay, so what if Trump is not an idiot? What if losing the war in Iran is exactly the plan? Let me show you something the media will never tell you. So everyone is saying Trump is destroying America. He is fighting an unwinnable war in Iran. He is threatening to invade with ground troops. He is pissing off NATO by threatening Greenland. He is picking fights with Canada, Mexico, Denmark, Colombia. JP Morgan says the world will run out of oil by mid-April. The global economy is about to collapse. Trump looks like the worst president in history, a complete buffoon, right? But what if that's the whole point? What if Trump wants to lose the war in Iran? What if he wants the American empire to collapse? What if he wants to destroy the global economy? Then he would be a genius. Let me explain. Right now, the world gets 20% of its oil from the Middle East. Japan gets around 75% from the Middle East. India gets around 60%. China gets around 50%. Europe is also heavily dependent. But here's the thing, oil is not rare. Venezuela has the world's largest oil reserves. Canada has massive reserves. United States has massive reserves. Trump just took over Venezuela in January. He's threatening to take over Canada. You see where this is going. If Trump closes the Strait of Hormuz by fighting Iran, the Middle East oil stops flowing, but North America is still pumping. Suddenly Europe, China, Japan, South Korea, they all would need American oil. And not just oil, fertilizer too. The nitrogen for food production also comes from the Middle East. If that's cut off, where do they turn? There are only two options, North America and Russia. Trump is making the entire world dependent on the resources he controls. Now here is the genius part. Who owns the most US debt? Who's financing America's $39 trillion? It's Japan, China, Taiwan, South Korea, UK, France, Belgium, and Luxembourg, the same countries that need Middle East oil. There's been this fear that these countries would stop buying US Treasury bonds, that they would move to gold or Swiss francs, that America's Ponzi scheme would collapse. But now they need American energy. They need American resources. They can't abandon the dollar. They are trapped. Trump just turned America's biggest weakness, its debt, into its greatest weapon. By starting an unwinnable war in Iran, he's forcing the entire world to depend on North America. This isn't new. Putin already proved that this strategy works in Ukraine. Russia has been fighting for 5 years. It's a slow grind, but it has restructured Russia's entire economy around war production, drones, ammunitions, and military manufacturing. Russia went from importing Iranian drones to making their own and now exporting them to Iran. Putin's plan was that the world is collapsing anyway, so why not build a fortress, make Russia self-sufficient, control the resources, and weather the storm? America saw this and said, we can do the same. Greenland for rare earth minerals, Canada for oil and resources, Venezuela for oil reserves, Mexico for manufacturing, Panama Canal for trade control. So maybe Trump is not being reckless. He is actually building a self-sufficient North American fortress while the rest of the world burns. So yes, Trump looks like an idiot. Yes, he's losing the war in Iran. Yes, he's destroying the global economy. But if the goal was to end the American empire and rebuild it for Americans, to make the world dependent on US resources while everyone else collapses, then Trump might go down as the greatest American president in history. Maybe the New World Order is dead, and maybe we are heading towards a Trump world order. Okay, so what if Trump is not an idiot? What if...
Okay. Okay. All right. Let's stop sharing that. First, I do want to say I'm going to post this in the comments. I want to properly credit the source. This is Professor Predicts, professor.predict on TikTok. If you guys are so inclined to go and watch it yourself, I posted the link. Shout out to Professor. Now, I will say at the top of this, like, that was a very interesting video. And while I liked how it framed the incentives, signals, and constraints, especially showing that detailed map, because I really wasn't aware, it was kind of helpful to see it visually, where these oil reserves are. The video itself seems to come from a take that, you know, Trump is taking over the world and wanting like full control, and everybody being dependent on the United States for all of the resources. But after following Trump for so long, I really see him as someone who has been super focused on making North America self-sovereign and self-sufficient again after years of over-reliance on all these other countries and the global choke points. We kind of have set ourselves up for failure in a lot of different lights. And then at the same time, I discovered Iran is openly using crypto for a toll. And so to me, it feels like we're watching a level playing field starting to emerge where sovereign countries are testing ways to trade peer to peer without one power being able to shut them down. And so it's all very interesting to me. I think this is the reason why I thought that this would be an interesting conversation to have with you guys. Not so much the tone of that video, although I'm very curious on your guys' take of the video, just the video itself, I guess, to start with. And then we can go into the CryptoToll stuff. But what are your thoughts after seeing that video? And I think we should go Key to Lady K and Opti, like our song. So what are you guys thinking, man? It was kind of a crazy video. You gotta admit.
No, it was like it literally made me think. Like it wasn't that I'm saying I believe every single thing that it said. That's why I sent it to you. I was like, this is some food for thought, because some of the things are very plausible, but we're also seeing some of those things playing out. So I was like, this is a good conversation to have.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, Lady K?
I have a lot of thoughts on that.
Let it rip, Lady K.
Come on, let it go. Let it go.
Let's go.
Well, first of all, I mean, I think the US is the choke point. You know what I mean? We're the bully. I think I really think that's why the other countries implemented cryptocurrency and digital assets at a much faster rate than us, because the US had the most to lose. You know what I mean? If we're on a level playing field where the monetary system is one that no country controls, that is truly a global level playing field for the other countries. And the US right now is the bully because they have the reserve currency. And oil, petrodollar, right? The oil is traded on the US dollar, and with BRICS and all this like turmoil, they're like trying not to trade on the US dollar. So I almost feel like they're going in and doing what they're doing because of that. I don't know. Like I still feel like they're trying to hold that power. I also find other things interesting, like the economic sovereignty. Do you guys remember the Economist magazine with the Phoenix?
Yep.
Okay, did you ever read the article? Okay,
the one with the Phoenix on it.
Yeah, I'm gonna share my screen because I have the article up.
Okay.
And it is share. Do you see that? Do you see the?
Mm-hmm. I have seen this before.
Yep.
Yeah. So it was the January issue of 1988, and it talks about digital currency. And the interesting thing is it actually says for it to work, countries will have to give up their economic sovereignty, which I find interesting. Oh, I thought I had it. Hold on.
You had it zoomed, and
I
then
got it. Okay. Yeah, it's not liking when I try and move it. But okay, so here, see, it says this means a big loss of economic sovereignty, but the trends that make the Phoenix, now they were like, the digital currency can be called the Phoenix. So that's the word that they're using here for digital currency. So the Phoenix, so appealing, are taking that sovereignty away in any case. So what makes digital assets appealing is taking away sovereignty anyways.
Keep going. Sorry.
Well, it just like
I wanted to respond to that particular.
Yeah, go for it.
My initial thought on this right away is, I think there were plans for a different world, and I do believe that there are those that were maybe in the know that we're building that is making it so that they don't lose their sovereignty. Because when you have an asset like XRP where you can exchange value for value, that allows a country to not be beholden to any one country in order to transact globally. And so while that Economist magazine predicted all of that. That was the plans. I think some of those plans might have been foiled. Where we always say, like, and still a lot of people like Opti knows, and I can't wait to hear what your take is on this either. But there's always been that plan, right, where you will own nothing and be happy, and we're going to be in this digital cage where they're going to trace every payment, and they're going to turn your money off, and all this stuff, right? Where I mean, like, in some respects, I think there's an element of truth to that. However, when you talk about the global economy and them being able to transact with one another, and this is why I think this is an interesting conversation, because, the petrodollar, the oil, we've been dependent on all of that, and they can put these sanctions and stop and prevent. And Iran's like, no, you're not using our channel now to put, all of the disruptions that are going on right now. And then what do they decide to do? They decide to put a crypto toll to say, like, well, yeah, you guys could pass if you pay this toll to kind of go through. So I think it's all very interesting. But yeah, Lady K, I do think that they envisioned a world back in the day, those that write history, they predict history. They had a very different vision how things were going to go down. But I do believe there were heroes in the background that said, oh, but no. And we thought you guys thought you were going to have the upper hand and be in control and front run this. But guess what? There were smart people that built some stuff that's kind of like unstoppable now at this point, in order to be able to transact with one another. So
I actually think it makes perfect sense. Okay, because economic sovereignty is the ability to control your economy, right? And how do you do that on a digital currency that they don't own? They can't make policies, like to regulate it if they don't own it. If we don't need a central bank, they can't make monetary policy. And so all this plays into the fact that in order for a truly level playing field where nobody owns the currency, they are going to have to give up some economic sovereignty for that to happen. And so that's why I was pointing out too, like, even, that's sort of been the theory all along. And I don't think,
can you rephrase that again, because my mind is thinking about things a little bit differently. So tell me why they have to really relinquish economic sovereignty as a country.
Because not full, but they're going to have to relinquish some of it, because you can't control a currency you don't own.
Well, see it, but in my
or contract, which is the dollar.
But here's the thing. This is where I'm saying I think it is going towards more sovereignty for each country to have their own currency.
Oh, yeah.
They can regulate their own currencies and make their own laws and rules and whatever surrounding that currency within their economy. And then they can transact globally with their own currency using a mechanism, which this is supposed to go later in the show, but using a mechanism like an XRP in the middle to transact value for value over into another currency. And they don't have to have any kind of middleman. Countries can remain sovereign with their own laws, rules, everything. They don't need to borrow money from the IMF and be told what they're going to do and how they can operate and all these things. And so I see that as freedom for some of these countries. And they've actually been working for years and years now in developing their own digital infrastructures in order to enable them to do that. That's what I see. So are you saying something different than that?
No.
Are you seeing it different?
No, I mean, I'm not. I'm not. It's just, I mean, okay. I'm not in the sense that if they are using digital assets that is not owned by any one country, then if they're using it and their country depends on that, then they have to give up some economic sovereignty because they will not be able to control that digital asset.
Right. Like if they had their own for their own country.
Well, no, if they had their own for their own country, they can control that. They can program that.
Yes, I'm agreeing with what you're saying. I'm agreeing with you.
Oh, yeah.
I'm agreeing with what you're saying.
And then, it could be the settlement. But what I'm saying is that, like, this whole ushering in the, pay by crypto and whatnot, like, I do think these countries are implementing digital assets because they see that it can provide a global level playing field. But the trade-off is going to be the country can't control it, which means they are going to have to give up some economic sovereignty there.
They can't control the mechanism that's going to allow them to transact globally, but they can control their own, like Iran is the Rial or something like that, I think.
Yeah.
Is their digital Rial. That they'll be able to control that.
Yeah, if they make it, they program it. Yeah, absolutely, they can. It's not going to be like a reserve, right?
We're on this.
It's not going to be like the global, and then they're in their own little box. I mean, might as well have fiat at that point.
Yeah. Well, before we go on, I want to get Opti's take on the video. What do you think, Opti?
Well, first of all, I thought it was very interesting. Like you said, I was like, I really enjoyed the visuals. I thought it was very well done. Like the visuals actually being able to see, at one point I was like, so funny about like the maps we have, right? Because like obviously Japan is like way more way closer to America than, that map, right? It was like, oh yeah, we're going to ship oil from here to here. It's like, well, actually the ocean is, it's this side. You can also go this way, but, I mean, 20 years ago, studying OPEC, 20 years ago, I was studying about how the infrastructure is set up to control. And like, when we were kids, it was the Iraq War. And, we all remember the National Geographic with the front with all the, the oil fields burning and like that whole, storyline. So there's always been that. I mean, me, I think it's all just prestidigitation because I believe that there's free energy and they're just hiding it. So all these silly wars are just, ways to control the world, and that we don't really need to be fighting over oil. And I think that there's another layer of that. Like I've been hearing rumors for a lot of years that oil is actually renewable, like it actually just like there is no end to it, but that's a whole other conversation. But I have been hearing sort of more and more like there's a falsehood of like the end of it, right? So it's just like causing more destruction. I think it's really interesting what both of you guys were just talking about. I think I can see both sides, like in terms, I think the definition of like what sovereignty looks like, and ultimately, we become also like, we like, especially just this discussion about whether you can like, code your own digital currency, like little pockets of communities can also do that. So it sort of creates like another layer of, freedom for the people, therefore less control over the people, which, argumentatively, like is a country sovereign because of its people, or is it sovereign because it has mechanisms at the top that control their people and control the rest of the world? I think when it comes to America, one thing you had said was own nothing and be happy. It's really interesting when you realize that that's what the rich people do, and they put everything in trust, and so they actually don't own their stuff, so long as you don't have it be taken away from you. Being able to be sovereign is also having your assets, your property, the things you own, and your livelihood, untouchable, which is sort of what we've been learning with trusts and things like that. So, I think it's always interesting when you have like, the tool versus the tool wielder. And that this has been the conversation we've been having for years about like different mechanisms that can get played out depending on who's sort of in charge. When it comes to Trump, like love him or hate him, like he's definitely shaking things up. And at the end of the day, like if you go back 20, 30 years, he's been talking about this stuff for years. And so I don't think he's making any of his decisions rashly. Now he has decided to surround himself with just like the worst of the people. And, there's a lot of controversy going on right now around that. But then I have, interpretations on that too, which we might get into here or maybe in the After Dark space. But, I think that there's what I find very interesting is he's always been like, we shouldn't police the world, which was always my argument with around, the control mechanisms that America and subsequently the deep state, it's not the Americans, It's the, Operation Paperclip. It's the old Khazarian mafia infiltration through the Second World War, through the IMF and the monetary systems that allow for the control mechanisms. And that deep state has, convinced the American population that they're doing it in the name of, goodness, when actually it's, all this other destruction, trafficking, all that weird stuff in the background. So like, I find it interesting, the whole, like, the argument of the left, right, is like the same argument I've been, involved with for 20 years because I went to university to study this stuff, right? And so ultimately, like, is it control mechanisms? Are you causing, wars around like it's always been? Nothing's changed, it's just causing more damage and being a distraction, whatever. Or are you bringing more and more awareness to the people on how these economic systems work, who's in control, how many different, mechanisms are there? And I think, one of the big things, like you just said, what I've noticed over the past 12 years, I guess, yeah, 10 years, and then that 4 years that you guys had the other president in, that Trump has always been about bringing back manufacturing, right? And that's what you were just addressing, is like the globalist choke point of manufacturing, right? Where you lose jobs, you give them to the, small wages. It's basically slavery around the world because there's, no policy that ensures that those people aren't bad people. But being a Canadian and knowing that our entire our government sold out to China, and if I was American, I would be very concerned. I would want to make sure that if I was going to try to protect my country, I would want to make sure that, people were coming to me for the things they needed, and that, there were ways to protect, my people. So, I mean, I'm always hoping for the 5D, and I'm always hoping for the highest timeline. And this, video was sort of giving that, feel. And so I'm always, hopeful for that. But then I do not believe in killing, the innocent for no reason at all. And I don't believe in war. So I believe that, that's the difference between monkeys and humans, is that we can talk. So talk. Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, and I will say this. So yeah, that I watched the video. I don't agree with the guy's take on what is actually happening, because I do believe that there's a lot of things happening in the background that most people aren't even aware of at all, that they don't factor these things in. And I like you mentioned, Trump has been like, get us back to manufacturing, get us back to actually really being a self-sovereign country, because we really aren't, like, or self-sufficient.
Right, because we do export everything out. I mean, we do export things in, import from other countries.
Yes, and we're dependent when we really can do it ourselves, right? We can really do it ourselves. We don't, and the world at large, they all have their specialties of what they can do, what they're building, the talents that they have, the people that live there, all of those things. Policing the world, out. It should be out, right? And so,
especially when it's not our fight.
It's not our fight.
Well, it will be out if we don't have the reserve currency anymore.
Well, really,
I don't know. Military power, but you know what I mean?
I see the whole thing as getting to where there is no one world currency, like dominating everything. That's what I see, like, this getting busted up eventually over time, with having a mechanism, whether you're a Bitcoin person who believes that Bitcoin is going to be that thing, because so this is where I want to kind of get into this CryptoToll and the Bitcoin and the stable coins and that, because they're allowed, according to what I read. And I will say, shout out to Kita, although I didn't want to talk about the video for the video itself, it sparked me to look into something that I wouldn't have looked into had I not seen that video. Had I not seen the video, I wouldn't have dove into Iran and realized that they were charging this during this ceasefire 2-week, the Bitcoin toll. And so as of April, they started charging ships a small crypto toll, which is about $1 per barrel in Bitcoin or stable coins.
Can I just say before you move on with that? So in the video, when you said that, small, so I hadn't really been paying attention because all just very upsetting, that they were saying $1 million a tanker. And so when you said it's small fee, $1 a barrel, I was like, I wonder if there's 1 million barrels in a tanker, you know?
Probably is.
And there probably is. So it's like the $1 a barrel when you think of how much we pay, you know, and things like that, no big deal, right? But if you think $1 million to move your boat through Strait, big deal, you know, depending on how many times you have to do that, you know, how many control mechanisms. Anyways, I just thought that was interesting because you said small. And the last thing I heard was $1 million for every time you wanted to go through. I was like, well, that's a lot of money, you know? So anyways, continue on.
I mean, I don't know if you can fit 1 million barrels of oil on one tanker. That seems excessive.
What?
Like an excessive
I
amount.
don't know.
I mean,
It does. We should look it up.
I don't know because they're stack them.
They do stack them, and it is true.
Well, they also don't put them all in barrels and put them on. Like it's, you know, it's a different situation.
If it's about $100 a barrel and it's $1 million ship, that'd be 100,000 barrels, right?
Yeah, 100,000. So $100,000 per ship to pass safely through the strait.
So it's $1. They said, right?
Yeah, I mean,
look it up.
Yeah.
How many barrels on
barrels?
And so if it's $1 per barrel, and there's 1 million barrels, or it's $1 million, how many barrels is that?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is that like one person I heard the fee was million. Then here I heard that what is it, Lady K?
This says modern oil tankers can carry between 70,000 and 4 million barrels of oil, depending on the size.
Now that makes more sense if they're saying $1 million a tanker.
That
makes sense.
All right, so I stand corrected. It's not small. It's $1 per barrel. But you know, if you want to come through,
but it is small. That's the point, right? It is small if you think about how much money they're making off that quantity from the people itself. You know,
I mean, it's a seize the moment type of situation, and supposedly this is only going to be happening during the ceasefire, which was supposed to be like 2 weeks, as far as I knew.
But here's the thing: that is if they are able to pay that. And
I
don't know if they and especially not only are they able to pay it, but are they able to pay it in Bitcoin? You see what I'm saying?
That's the other thing. Settle it.
So the thing is, I mean, that's probably the reason why we're having so many issues right now, because a lot of them can't pay that.
Well, or don't want to. But I want to just add before we move on is, you know, Melissa, you always talk about problem, reaction, solution, right? And you and so we've been talking about this pushover. So there's two things. One, Bitcoin and that video that we saw like a while ago. That's, I mean, pretty old, I think, at this point, but talking about how Bitcoin was tracking. Right. So that's one thing. You know, who's working on what side? We don't know. And then two, problem, reaction, solution. You set this up. You cause a country who never I don't know where they've been at with Bitcoin or, you know, cryptocurrency, all of a sudden being like, we need to settle payments fast. We need to do this thing. We're going to charge this. Oh, this is a new idea. Oh, all of a sudden you get people doing the thing you wanted them to do in the first place.
So XRP Papa says super tankers hold 2 million barrels.
So $2 million to safe pass.
And I do have to give a shout out to the 141 people that are sitting here and watching us. Let's go. And we have such a great room here, and the chat is super live. We've got some new folks in the house. We have our faves. We've got Silver Days, who's always first. Miss Stephanie. We've got Tio Trini up in the spot. Niall Cottrell. I know, right? XRP Sholo, Hillary, awesome Amy. We also have Mr. Zam, the man with the plan. We've got HB Tinks 4784. I've never seen this person before, but welcome to our show. Moneybags Not Bob 1784. He's come up with some really great comments talking about the stable coins. And then we also have Miss Gone Rogue, Miss Susan. Hey, Miss Susan. And then we also have down here as well, we also have XRP Papa, and also Miss Sylvie Scape has come into the room. Welcome all.
Let's go. Let's go, Sylvie Save. I love her. If
Yeah.
you guys haven't checked out her music, you need to. Trump has a short amount of time to change the direction in the U.S. and the financial system. That's what money. He says 121 tankers are headed to the U.S. for oil. So here's something.
And that's the point.
So here's something. Right now, you see Iran actually like forcing their hand, right? Like they're like forcing everybody's hand, saying you're not going to be able to pass through here, and unless you pay this dollar in Bitcoin to get through per barrel, and we're the boss, right? They're doing that now, and that video laid out there's oil everywhere. That it's forcing like us to use our own oil or people to buy oil from other places, which then, so I agree with that as far as the video goes. But I still say, again, it is the problem reaction solution test. So not only is this testing Bitcoin, from what I researched, according to all the sources that were talking about this CryptoToll, they were able to like do it, and it was happening quick, and then they were able to pass differently than getting like money and going through the traditional system. So that's one part of it, that it's actually doing it. It's all about
You see this?
Yeah, this comment is like remembering that the US dollar and why it's all a Ponzi scheme in the first place is that, they moved over to the petrodollar. So everything is based around oil in the American economy, in the US dollar. And so, one of the other sides of this is remembering the US debt clock, right? The US debt clock has been doing these these images for 2.5 years now. And the whole thing is about shifting over from the Ponzi scheme and the petrodollar to a sovereign wealth fund backed by treasury dollars that are backed by a basket of commodities, which is the shift from, Lady K.
It's just interesting though, because as of 10 a.m., Trump started blocking the Strait.
I did. So this is what,
right back to the U.S. going, you're not trading on the U.S. dollar. I'm sending in the tanks.
Yeah, I saw that. I was like, well, I said things change so quickly in this world right now. It's like,
talk about turning up the heat.
Exactly. Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting. But in any event, with all of this stuff said, the one thing that I did get out of this whole thing is even countries like Iran, they have been investing in digital infrastructure for almost a decade now. And so no matter what the outcome with this particular situation, they are building themselves up. So, I mean, they got interested in crypto around 2017 because the sanctions against them make moving money hard for them, right? Yeah. So they legalized Bitcoin mining in 2019. They had the cheap electricity to do the Bitcoin. They've been testing their own digital real, which is their government digital money, since about 2022. And then this is the thing that I did not know. About 14 to 15 million Iranians, roughly 1 in 6 persons in Iran, had used crypto. Many of them are using it to protect their savings while their currency gets shaky, and even the government is involved too. So now they're openly asking for crypto tolls. So I'm wondering too, because they have started out with, like, since 2019 doing the Bitcoin mining, they're like, let's seize the opportunity because they know Bitcoin's not going away. They want to grab an extra piece of the pie while they can. I don't know. What do you guys think? Did you know that Iran was that far along when it comes to the digital asset space?
I did know they were pretty far along, because especially with the amount of artists that we're in line with right now, they've been on many different blockchains. We're new to them.
Yep.
They've been over in Solana and Tezos and Ethereum and all these other blockchains. So I absolutely do believe that, for sure.
they're ahead of the curve. They're ahead of the curve on some of this stuff. A lot of the countries are ahead of the curve when it comes to it.
Jamaica, like they already have, CBDC.
And not only that, they also have everything from the social credit scores in China. They are completely like into the digital assets. That's what they're using over there.
Oh yeah, I remember hearing something like in 2023 or even earlier where like in China now, if you like get like all their cameras, if you get caught jaywalking, you just get a fine and the fine just immediately takes it out of your bank account like nothing. Like there's no, you get it in the mail or anything. It's just like, oh, this is your account. You did something wrong. Yeah, it's just removed. And so yeah, and that's why I'm always scared of that one app, because they do everything like that.
So okay. So my initial thoughts on this whole thing, I guess I didn't realize about it being like, millions of dollars, right? That is a lot of money or a lot of Bitcoin. However, I still would like to talk about XRP's role in this the potential for XRP. So doing commerce with one another, each country having their own currency that they want to be able to, buy something over here. The gentleman Moneybags Not Bob, saying the dollar value is still gonna rule, like how things are priced in the United States dollar.
Right, but the cross-border payment aspect of it, though.
Yes, the cross-border payment of it, and like them being able to use their own currency and switching over in, say an XRP, kind of like as the bridge. What do you guys see as far as that being a possible solution to trading? I mean, because I'm even thinking like these people that are in other countries where their currency might not be as valuable as, say, the United States dollar, right? Or, you always say like, people in Pakistan make, smaller amounts of money, and so people will hire them or whatever. Well, they're selling things for XRP, and they sell, something for 5 or 10 XRP. The value is still, I mean, maybe in their country it might be different, but if they're free to transact with you and I over here in the United States or Canada, that XRP value for them is the same as ours, right?
Except if you turn it into their currency, right? Then it's a higher value. It's just based on
way higher volume.
Yeah, how much purchasing power is that argument? It's the purchasing power, and I think ultimately, like hyperinflation, right? Like if you look at a lot of these countries, like what it used to be, what time frame, against the U.S. dollar versus now, and we can go back to the, Zimbabwe, and the hyperinflation going from, 1 to 1 to billions.
But let me ask you a question though. Don't you think that we're in a state of hyperinflation? I think so.
Yeah, I think
I'm going to be honest with you. I almost think we're almost in a depression here.
Yeah.
Well, there's a big.
It's not even inflation. It's dollar. It's
devaluation of the dollar. Yeah. But the thing about it is that still feeds into, because all we have, people's pay hasn't raised.
Nope.
People are still making the same amount of money they were making before, but everything.
Hey, you didn't get your 3% raise?
Hey, yo.
Thank you.
Nowadays, I'm not even doing any of that, because what am I doing right now?
I think that this is the biggest thing.
Than I do. You need it more than I do. Thanks for the raise.
Maybe like for me, I believe there are people in the background trying to prevent the complete collapse of the economy. I think that this is what we're in the middle of, is that the plan was to completely collapse everything through hyperinflation and, with all what happened during the apocalypse and, the destruction of small businesses, people's credit cards at an all-time high. They can barely afford to like have any kind of joy in their life. It's all just paying their bills. I mean, I think it's all just a, tactic for demoralization, and that, there are some of us who are paying enough attention that hopefully, should they collapse everything, some of us still can, have done the things that we need to do to keep control of our assets, or at least of our, living.
Or have diversified enough in order to be able to have real world assets. And I think that, and diversified enough that they have those real world assets, because I think that's also key as well. I mean, it's one thing to be able to have the currency in your hand. It's a whole nother thing to have assets that can give you value. You see what I'm saying? Give you value and trading power, because I think those things are a very real thing.
Man, this conversation is going faster than I thought.
I know.
I do wonder. I mean, Trump is not going to be able to bring back all, manufacturing. I think our economy is like 80% service right now. It's crazy, right? But I do think that he is trying to bring back certain things that would ensure, like the chip manufacturing and
Steel.
things like that, that would kind of ensure our place in a global economy. But the question is, does it collapse and we go to digital, which no one country owns, or does the US just keep fighting that, like manipulating the economy so they don't say we're in a recession, and using the military power to make sure that everyone keeps trading on the US dollar and the petrodollar and all that, like that's the question.
I think that the whole world is playing the game. I mean, I know like there's going to be a lot of people that are going to like absolutely disagree and say like, I'm just being silly. But if you think about it, the way that the whole world has been structured over the course of the past, several decades, when we fall, they all freaking fall. It's a house of cards, right? Like everything is kind of teetering. So it behooves them to play this game. We know they have wars to simulate the economy and all the games that they play.
Yep.
And so I believe that they do these things, as the world turns type of thing, Trump always mentions central casting and all this kind of stuff. Right. And you see them, like I've watched them over like really closely, more closely than I ever have in my entire life. But over the past 10 years, I've really been giving this stuff attention. And I noticed the tap in and tap out. I noticed the tag team going on. You got a set of players that it's all about them and they're doing this. And then they exit stage left and then in comes somebody else. And then boom, here comes that guy back again a couple years later, with a slightly different twist. And it's just like watching a soap opera. This whole thing is like watching a damn soap opera. And if they don't cooperate with one another, the potential for everybody's stuff to just collapse. And so while we're transitioning over to a new global digital, whatever you want to say, the new way of doing business, you have to let the old down, slowly bringing the other up to where, so I feel like we're going to be in some like unstable times, but they're going to try to control it as comfortably as they can possibly do. And all the while doing a bunch of shady shit in the background that you don't really understand that they're doing because you're too interested in whether Trump is putting a picture that he's Jesus. You know what I'm saying? Like, we'll fight about that. And, Trump thinks he's Jesus and all this kind of stuff. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, they're charging tolls, crypto tolls, millions of dollars to go through the strait, right? But most people are worried about whether Trump posted a picture of him as Jesus or Red Cross doctor, whatever you want to call it. So
did not even see that.
Honestly, it's laughable. I said to myself this morning, why did I even laugh or comment? Because then all my whole feed was this freaking, it's blasphemy and it's this and that. I'm like, oh my gosh, guys. Like, it's just to the point of ridiculousness, the whole thing.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, I hated Trump my whole life. And, my brother was really into Trump when I was, he's 17 years older than me. He's my stepbrother. When I was, a teenager, and he was in his late 20s, and he had the book, and I was like, why do you like that guy? Like, I don't even like that guy. I don't like Apprentice, whatever. And then over the past 6 years, I started looking at him from little bit of a different light. And I definitely have to say that like my sort of relinquishing of like that he's not, there's not at least some parts of him that are trying to help. I'm really big on the getting rid of the trafficking thing. And that's sort of what I had heard he was doing. He's the best troller ever. And I really laugh out loud half the time at the shit he says. And it makes me smile at like just how he forces people to talk about things that they would otherwise not talk about through making people angry. And a perfect example is what happened this weekend with Tucker and Candace and Kelly and Alex. And for me, my argument was, okay, maybe unconsciously, maybe consciously, but is there any way that this could be that like if if half the world hates you and there's these group of people that are actually talking the truth and that those people that hate you also hate those people, and then you start publicly having a fight with those people, will you maybe send people in that direction to find out some of the information you would not otherwise look at because you had like put everybody into the same basket and you were ignoring what they had to say? And like I've been listening to Candace nonstop since Charlie happened, since the Charlie Big Bang happened. So sad. Rest in peace, Charlie Kirk. And Baron Coleman. And, I'm all about just that keep asking questions. At the end of the day, anybody asking questions is worth my time, and anybody looking for truth is worth my time. And, it's all prestidigitation and the distraction is from you. So get down to business and start building. That's my take.
Yeah. Right. Lady K?
I want to make a comment on what Moneybags just said. Like we need an arrogant, I agree. We need a president who they are afraid will actually push the button. Otherwise, they'll just walk all over us.
It's definitely a troller, like the most epic troll of trolls. Like it's pretty crazy. So I just want to say, like I said, over the past 10 years, watching all this stuff go down, once you see, you can't unsee the ridiculousness that is government. It's like absolutely, particularly United States, our Congress, like it's, if you simply merely look at the eyebrows, you'll just go, what in the hell am I looking at here, right? There's like so much crazy stuff that goes on that it's like, it's amazing how people, if you're not giving it your full attention to where you see the bigger picture, you zoom out, see the bigger picture, how easily they can dangle the carrot in front of you and have you just get completely outraged that the president posted a meme of him appearing to look like Jesus. And I just want to go like, how do you know Jesus looked like that? Somebody made a picture of Jesus and said it looked like that. They didn't know what Jesus looked like, probably. You know what I mean? So, I mean, it's just getting all worked up about that kind of stuff where there's so many important things happening in the world. We are living in the most transformative and entertaining time ever. But if you're not giving it your attention, it could be absolutely terrifying. Because everybody acts crazy, no matter whether you like Trump, you don't, you're a left person, Democrat, Republican, it doesn't matter. I don't care what party you're in. It's scary. Your people have lost their mind on both sides. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
100.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't even. I'm like, don't call me anything. Don't even label me.
What had happened was we're living in a world where everybody had lost their damn mind. And yeah.
Listen, that nowadays we just have way too many things being shot at us. You know what I'm saying? From way too many different angles, and what we're all trying to do is just really just traverse through this whole thing and make it out on the other side better than we were when we started. And they're making it extremely hard for that to be the case, regardless of how you feel about the president, about the situation, they're just making it extremely hard. So because of that, the decisions we're making now are so stinking important, and if you have not diversified, if you don't have real world assets, if you are not in here trying to understand this whole entire ecosystem, not just XRP, not just Bitcoin, but what these coins and what this technology is doing for everyone, not just people here in the US, but around the world, because this is not just a US thing. This is global. And I think that what happens is people tend to be very short-sighted and only see what's happening here in the US, as opposed to looking at the whole entire world and how it affects everything.
And you know what? Like I said, I believe the whole world is working together. And one of the things that clued me off years ago, I can't remember, it was during Trump's first term, where it was it Angela Merkel, and there was I think the Japanese or South Korean. There was like it's supposed to be all of these big turmoils going on, where he went on the world stage, and they were all joking around. They take their family photo together, all standing together, joking around. If you watched it, you saw the body language of the people. And then there was the infamous photo of all of them where it actually looked like a staged photo. There was photos of people in the White House all standing up on a balcony, and again, it looked like a staged photo, and it wasn't AI. And well, I'm like, go ahead.
I think COVID proved they're working together.
Huh.
Operation Lockstep, right?
Absolutely.
They really did. They worked lockstep. They did. Legitimately. Across the board. Big old, the biggest money grab I've seen since Sam Bankman-Fried.
Mm-hmm. We're at rapid fire, last thoughts, final round. What do you say, Lady Keita, Lady K, Opti?
Diversify.
I don't know. I'm just watching the show. We'll see how it ends.
Yeah, just what I said. I think always I say, what's the distraction from? It's you. I believe that you, present moment you, unafraid you, moving forward in, the light of God, whatever you call that, source energy, or, the creator, or whatever you want to call the energy of love for you in succeeding in your life, is the only way forward. And everything is a distraction from you living that life. So live your life, go be good in the world, and maybe learn a little bit about blockchain, and maybe start building out your dreams and see if they can come true. And maybe come to the after show and tell us what your thoughts are.
Yeah, guys, come to the after space. It starts at 10:10. I posted the link in there. We got to go. I do want to say, join. Where is it? Join Faces of Crypto on Wednesday. I had my thing written out of who I have on. I got Ripple Vids coming on. I have the one and only Crypto Tales is going to come on the show. And award-winning artist Chewy. I hope I'm saying that correctly.
Yes, you are, Chewy.
Really looking forward to having these guys on the show. It's going to be fantastic. Please join us Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the DigitalLadies Show, and join us in the after space. Ladies, this has been a fantastic conversation. Let's chop it up. Let's go, guys. Love you all. Have a good night.
Digital ladies breaking the chain, rising in crypto, we're changing the game. Crypto frontier, we're claiming our space. Not your keys, not your crypto, know your place. Unscripted, we're bold, we're free. Melissa, Keita, Lady K, and Opti. Digital, come ride this wave. Digital wealth, we're here to pay.
Crypto nights, we're lighting a spark. As we ignite now, we're setting the